Once upon a time in a small, quiet town, I was home alone for the weekend. My parents had to leave town for a family emergency, and I, a 12-year-old boy named Timmy, was entrusted with the house. Their instructions were clear: stay inside, lock all the doors and windows, and don't open the door for anyone, no matter what. They believed our old, creaky house was perfectly safe, and I was old enough to take care of myself. On Friday night, as the full moon cast eerie shadows across the house, I settled on the couch watching my favorite horror movie. The wind outside howled like a lonely ghost, and the trees scratched at the window panes, creating unsettling sounds. The house had always been a little creepy, but tonight, it felt even more so. As I was about to hit the sack, I noticed a strange painting hanging in the hallway. It was a portrait of a man with piercing eyes that seemed to follow me as I walked past. I didn't remember ever seeing this painting before. I dismissed it as just another weird quirk of the house. I went to my room, brushed my teeth, and settled into bed, still a little on edge. I switched off the lights, leaving only the dim glow of my nightlight. As I began to drift into slumber, I heard something that sent a chill down my spine, a faint whisper, a voice I didn't recognize calling my name. "Timmy." I sat up, eyes wide, and scanned the room. It wasn't my imagination. Someone had called my name. My heart raced as I realized I was home alone, and the voice wasn't my parents or any friend I knew. Fearfully, I reached for my phone and called my parents, but there was no signal. The voice called my name again, closer this time. "Timmy." Trembling, I grabbed a baseball bat from under my bed and stepped out into the dark hallway. The moonlight now seemed to cast the shadow of the eerie painting across the walls. The whisper continued, leading me downstairs and toward the front door. "Timmy." With every step, the voice seemed to beckon me closer to the door. My pulse quickened, but a strange compulsion pushed me onward. As I reached for the doorknob, I hesitated. I remembered my parents' strict instructions not to open the door for anyone. I backed away, determined to follow their advice. Back in my room, I barricaded the door and sat on my bed, clutching the baseball bat. The voice outside grew more desperate, pounding on the door and begging me to open it. It called my name over and over, promising that it wouldn't harm me, but my fear held me firm. I refused to open the door. Hours passed, and the voice outside eventually fell silent. The house was once again quiet, save for the sounds of the wind and creaking floorboards. I was exhausted but couldn't sleep. Morning arrived, and the first rays of sunshine crept through the curtains. I, still clutching the bat, slowly opened the door to my room and cautiously ventured downstairs. The eerie painting in the hallway was gone. My parents' instructions to keep the door locked had saved me. I felt a shiver down my spine as I realized that I had narrowly escaped a terrifying fate. I never found out who or what the voice outside had been, but I knew I would never forget that night. As I looked out the window, I saw my parents' car pulling into the driveway. They had returned earlier than expected. I rushed outside, tears in my eyes, and embraced them tightly. I told them everything that had happened, and they comforted me, relieved that I had followed their instructions. Though my parents never fully believed my story, they decided to move to a new house in another town, leaving behind the old, creepy home. My nights were no longer haunted by that sinister voice, and I could finally sleep peacefully, knowing I had made the right choice that fateful night. The memory of the eerie painting and the whispered voice, however, would always linger in the back of my mind, a reminder that some mysteries are better left unsolved. In a quaint village nestled far away from the bustling modern world, there stood an ancient cottage known as the Time Traveler's Retreat. This cottage had been empty and abandoned for decades, its history lost to time. When 15-year-old Tom found himself home alone for a week, while his parents visited relatives, he viewed it as a perfect opportunity to unlock the mysteries of this enigmatic place. Tom had always been fascinated by tales of time travel, and he believed the cottage held the key to unraveling its secrets. Armed with a curious mind, a notebook, and a time-worn key he discovered in a dusty drawer, he ventured into the heart of the village's forest. As Tom approached the cottage, he was struck by its dilapidated beauty. Ivy covered its crumbling walls, and the front door had the appearance of having remained sealed for years. The key in his hand seemed to resonate with a faint, otherworldly energy, urging him forward. Upon entering the cottage, he was transported back in time. The once dilapidated interior was now alive, as though the place had been meticulously maintained. The furniture was polished, and the air was filled with the fragrance of fresh-baked bread. Tom stood in astonishment, unable to believe his eyes. In the past, he discovered the cottage was inhabited by a brilliant inventor, an eccentric man who had crafted a time-traveling machine. The inventor had discovered a way to manipulate time, and Tom, being a science enthusiast, was captivated by the man's journals and diagrams. The time machine itself, a magnificent, intricate contraption, stood in the center of the room. Tom's days were filled with exploration and experimentation. He marveled at the wonders of time travel, visiting historical events and witnessing ancient civilizations. However, he soon realized that his presence in the past had unintended consequences. Small changes in the past created ripples that affected the present. Tom found himself in a moral dilemma, torn between his fascination with time travel and the responsibility it entailed. As Tom's week of solitude continued, he attempted to undo the changes he had made in the past. The time machine's complex controls became more familiar to him, and he meticulously adjusted the dials to restore the timeline. It was a race against time itself, and Tom's determination was put to the test. On the last day of his adventure, as Tom stood in the inventor's cottage, he realized he had managed to undo most of the alterations he had inadvertently caused. The present was slowly restoring itself to its original state. He watched as the past he had visited shifted back, like a movie in reverse. The time machine hummed and crackled, and just as Tom was about to return to the present, he heard the voices of his parents calling his name. Panicked, he tried to shut off the machine, but it malfunctioned. He was transported back to the present, but something had changed. His parents' voices faded away, and Tom found himself standing in front of an entirely different cottage, one that appeared even more ancient and mysterious. It was not the home he had left. It seemed that his last attempt to restore the timeline had gone awry. As he stepped outside, he realized he was in a new time, a new reality, and a new adventure awaited him. The enigmatic key still clutched in his hand, Tom decided to embrace the uncertainty of his time-traveling journey, ready to explore the secrets of this new chapter of history. In a sleepy, forgotten corner of the town, nestled among the trees and hidden from the world, stood an old mansion known as Hillcrest House. It had a reputation for being the most haunted residence in town. Legends of ghostly apparitions, eerie sounds, and unexplainable occurrences had circulated for generations. To 14-year-old Lily, however, these tales were mere superstitions. When her parents left her home alone for a week to visit her sick grandmother, she saw it as an opportunity to prove to herself that there was nothing to fear within those ancient walls. Lily was an independent and curious girl. With her parents gone, she decided to explore Hillcrest House, debunking every haunting story she had ever heard. Armed with a flashlight, a notepad, and a confident smile, she ventured inside. The creaking wooden floors, the fatting wallpaper, and the musty scent that filled the air didn't deter her. In fact, they intrigued her. It was as if the house itself dared her to uncover its mysteries. As night fell, Lily settled into the master bedroom where she planned to spend her first night alone. She had read extensively about the psychology of fear and believed that many supernatural experiences could be easily explained. She was determined to use her stay at Hillcrest House as a real-life experiment. The first night was uneventful. Lily heard strange noises and saw odd shadows, but she attributed them to the old house settling, or perhaps a family of raccoons in the attic. She made meticulous notes of every occurrence, convinced that she would soon prove her hypothesis. On the second night, things took a more unsettling turn. As Lily lay in bed, she heard the faint sound of a music box playing. Her parents had told her about a broken music box they had found in the attic when they first moved in, but it hadn't played a note in years. She was certain it was just her imagination, but curiosity got the better of her. Following the sound, she climbed the creaky stairs to the attic. The music grew louder, more haunting. She pushed open the attic door, and there, bathed in the dim light of the moon, she saw it. The music box, sitting on a dusty wooden table, playing its eerie tune. Lily's heart raced as she approached, convinced someone was playing a prank on her. She reached out to stop the music box, but before her hand could make contact, it stopped on its own. It was as if an invisible presence was toying with her, a chill running down her spine. She fled the attic, terrified and baffled. The following nights brought even more inexplicable events. Whispering voices echoed through the hallways, footsteps echoed in empty rooms, and cold drafts seemed to whisper ancient secrets. Lily's notes filled with descriptions of the supernatural occurrences she couldn't explain. By the fourth night, she realized she was no longer alone. In the dim light of her bedroom, she saw a shadowy figure standing at the foot of her bed. Panic surged through her veins, but when she flicked on the flashlight, there was nothing there. The figure had vanished. She thought she was losing her mind. Desperation drove Lily to dig deeper into the history of Hillcrest House. She uncovered tales of a family that had once lived there, a family plagued by tragedy and mystery. It was said that they had conducted strange experiments, delving into the occult. Perhaps their restless spirits still lingered within the house, she wondered. With the knowledge of the house's dark history, she decided to conduct a seance to communicate with the spirits. She lit candles, drew symbols, and began to speak, inviting the entities to reveal themselves. As she chanted, the room grew cold and the candles flickered wildly. Lily felt a presence around her, and then, as if in response to her call, a chilling whisper echoed through the room, the voice of a child begging for help. Lily's heart raced as she realized she had unlocked something beyond her understanding. The spirits were not malevolent. They were trapped souls seeking release. She made it her mission to help them find peace. Over the course of the week, she unraveled the mysteries of Hillcrest House and uncovered a hidden room in the basement. In it, she found a collection of old letters and journals detailing the family's experiments with the supernatural. Lily felt a connection to them, a kinship. She understood that they were not malevolent, but lost souls. With a heavy heart, Lily performed a ritual to release the spirits from their torment. As she completed the ritual, the atmosphere in the house changed. The whispers ceased, the apparitions faded, and the music box played its final note before falling silent. When her parents returned, they found a changed girl and a tranquil home. Lily had conquered the hauntings of Hillcrest House, not by debunking them, but by understanding and empathizing with the spirits. The house that had once been a place of fear had transformed into a place